Hello everybody, sorry about the slightly awkward angle at which I arose from the bowels of this Land Rover, but Andrew, who is on camera today, instructed me to get my fat head out of the way, so that is what I did. Welcome to WildEarth. You are sitting in the middle of the Greater Kruger National Park, 2.2 million hectares of magnificent wilderness, and from the smallest little purple Vernonia tree up to the majestic baobab, and from a tiny little worker termite up to the majestic elephant bulls that we have around here, we're going on a journey of discovery to see all the magnificent things that this wilderness has to offer. You are most welcome, like I say, and we'd love to hear from you. If you've got any questions as to what on earth we're doing out here, or just some comments, please get hold of us, especially if you're a new viewer, or perhaps a regular viewer who doesn't talk to us very much. You're welcome to talk to us, #SafariLive, or questions@wildearth.tv. My name is James Hendry. On camera today we have Andrew. Andrew, as usual, is dressed in an array of sort of sports gear, and some might say circus gear as well. And on the other vehicle we have Brent, the inimitable, with his slightly strange man from Panama hat, and Jamie's out there with him too, and also Brian the Thumb on camera. Now in the control room today we have got Alex, all the way from Russia. Different dulcet tones from those of Nikki Austin, but she's gone on leave, and also Louise, of course, and Eugene is knocking about as well, putting things together, fixing antenna, etc., etc. So, our plan today is to head to the far east of Djuma, and Djuma is this little piece of the Greater Kruger National Park on which we operate. No fences around us at all, so from all the way to the Mozambican border, in fact all the way to the Limpopo River in Mozambique, and all the way to the western borders of the Sabi Sands, which are about 5 or 6 kilometers, no, probably 10 kilometers away as the crow flies. No fences. No fences south, no fences north. So we really are in an area where we don't always know what's going to happen, because animals can come on and off as they please, and so it's an exciting voyage of discovery every time we go out. Except a voyage, I think, is on the sea, isn't it, Andrew? Yes, it's an an exciting journey of discovery every time we head out into this wilderness. So without further ado, here we go. Feel free to talk to us, like I say, anything you like, well, within reason, #SafariLive, or questions@wildearth.tv. Here we go. We did have some giraffe there to start with, and then some zebra, but they seem to have waddled off. We might find them a little bit further along the road here. Let's make sure I'm plugged in. Now, I can just see some giraffe legs sort of through there, but nothing to write home about. Then the other thing to just let you know, of course, is the temperature, because it's important that you understand the difficulties of the winter here in Africa. So it's a balmy, what was it, 27 degrees odd. Andrew, stop giggling. Or 74 degrees Fahrenheit. Difficult for the midwinter, isn't it? I mean, it's really hard, don't you find, Andrew?
Yes.
And been very pleasant. And thank you very much for your comment, Wildlife. You say you join us for 3 hours, I think it's morning and afternoon, which is very dedicated of you. We love having you along, and please keep talking to us. Thank you. There's a bit of a wind blowing, and it's coming from the, where's it coming from, Andrew? From the northwest, I think, which is fairly typical for August. So it will be a fairly windy month, I suspect. And what the wind does, of course, is knock all of the last remaining leaves off the trees, so that they can be ready for the spring flush come September. But the northwest wind is also the wind of fire, which means that, you know, it's quite warm. It's not a cool wind that brings in a front. It's normally quite a hot wind. But because, like I've said before, we've had so little rain in the last year, the fuel load, which is the grass, not the trees actually hardly burn in this area unless there's a lot of grass underneath them. The fuel load here is very low, so the danger of severe fire is small this year. Let's go up this road, Andrew, if you don't mind. Some buffalo tracks and a fresh buffalo patty. But generally on a day like this, when it's become, I mean, it's got actually quite hot for winter, and so the animals are generally going to be lurking in the shade until a little bit later when it cools down, and then they'll probably come out. Some of them will go down to drink now, and that's why we're heading towards Buffels Hook Dam, which is a fast receding waterhole on the far northeastern corner of the reserve. Andrew, let's just have a look at this tree here. I'm just going to pop out of the car, if that's all right. Don't go anywhere, Andrew, please. So, Andrew, just wave at me if you can't hear what I'm saying. This is an old marula tree, and it is obviously no longer extant, it is dead, and it was probably pushed over by elephants some time back. But you can see how even this dead marula tree is an ecosystem unto itself. All the little holes here come probably from wood borer beetles and also woodpeckers. They'll come and dig here, and the little grubs and things from wood borer beetles that will lay their eggs, and the other insects that will use the wood as a home will obviously provide food for things like woodpeckers when they come and drill around here. Then you can also probably see where these lanes have been eaten out of the wood. That will also be wood-eating insects, could even be termites that have come up and eaten the dead wood. This marula tree will probably be gone completely within, I would say, about 3 years. It'll be destroyed and eaten by a number of termites. And where I used to work, down at a place called Londolozi, there was a marula tree that kind of had been struck by lightning and it fell onto its top. So it looked like it had been planted upside down. And that tree you used to be able to climb in. And 2 or 3 years after it was eventually, or after it was struck down by lightning at roughly 300 million volts, which is quite heavy, and 30,000 amps. 3 years after that, the termites had eaten it into dust. So they don't last very long. And the marula tree especially doesn't have a very hard heartwood, and so it's quite easy, once it's dead, for little borer beetles and things to get into it. So I think that was all started by an elephant way back, probably about say a year and a half ago. Right, there we go. Stop coughing, Andrew. It's not good TV. Sorry, and let's just have a quick look at this knobthorn tree. No, that's also marula. Is it? I lost my mind. Andrew, what is it?
It looks like a marula.
It is a marula. Okay, so here's quite an interesting thing. So that's a dead marula tree, obviously. It is no longer alive either. But the reason that's died is because it's been ring barked. Now, sometimes people ask what I mean when I talk about ring barking. And if you look there at where Andrew's zooming in, you can see the trunk has been cleared of bark. And the bark, of course, is important, A, because it protects it from the beetles that you can see have drilled holes all over the place there, and B, because it carries the vascular tissue, which is the water from the roots up to the leaves and the carbohydrates that are made by photosynthesis from the leaves down to the roots. And without the bark, of course, there's nothing going up or down, and the tree must eventually die. So that's basically why it dies. And I suspect that marula we looked at earlier suffered the same fate, and I suspect the fate that originally started the demise of this old thing was probably a number of, or an elephant that came to eat on the bark in the dryness of the winter. And the trees are going to take a hammering now. We're actually, while it looks dry now, and I talk about spring, we're actually just heading to the really dry period. August, September, October are going to be the driest months that we have, and obviously October the worst. And October will be hot too. And so the marula trees and the knobthorn trees specifically are going to take a hammering from the elephants. The elephants, some elephant would have come in there and dug at the bark with his tusks to try and get at the nutritious material. And that's often, I mean, it's a real effort for them to do. They only do it when they really need to. Otherwise, they like to graze. So that's basically a nice introduction to what's going to happen with the trees out here over the next few months. I think the evening is going to be magnificent. It's really it is quite hot now, and you can see the light is kind of washed out. It's very bright. But I think come the evening time, I think you'll find that it's going to soften very nicely. There's quite a lot of dust in the air, and especially off to the west there, so we should have a good sunset. Andrew, you still with us?
Yes.
You never can tell with Andrew. He's always busying himself fixing bits and pieces. Have a quick look here, Andrew, if you don't mind, on the termite mound there. I'm going to excuse myself again. So this is obviously a termite mound. Well, perhaps not so obviously. If this is your first time to see a termite mound, welcome to it. It is the termite mound of Macrotermes natalensis, or the fungus-growing termite. And this white stuff here is, Andrew?
Bird poo.
Bird poo, precisely. And what bird do you think did it?
A hornbill.
Correct. Well done. I didn't actually prime him for that, everybody. He guessed it all by himself. And a hornbill will come and sit on here, especially in the cold mornings, and warm himself with the sort of metabolic heat that comes out of the termite mound, and then feed on the termites, the hapless workers who happen to be trying to fix the hole that he's managed to drill into it. And then he kind of relieves himself in the kitchen, as it were. And this is the only termite here that builds a mound like this. The fungus-growing termite, Macrotermes natalensis. There are lots of different kinds of termites that we get out here, but that's the only one that builds a big mound. Well done, Andrew. Passing your first quiz of the afternoon. Good job. So like I say, I think the first... Okay, we're going to nip across to Brent. He's actually, I was about to say, I don't think we're going to find many mammals in this heat, but we're going across to Brent. He has found a magnificent mammal. We'll see you a little bit later.
Welcome everyone. We've had the best luck so far on this sunset safari. By the way, for those of you who don't know, my name is Brent, and I've got Brian on camera, and the thumb of course, and together we're sometimes known as the Killer Bees, and we've got off to a really great start. We were actually sitting with that mating pair of lion and all of a sudden we heard a leopard calling, and we knew Sindile was in the area, so it looks like Shadow might have come to fetch him to take him to a kill. So really exciting. The lions, on the other hand, were just snoozing, so we're definitely going to stick with this. But isn't this incredible? We're sitting here live in South Africa on the boundary between Djuma and Arathusa private game reserves with a female leopard and her cub. Afternoon mobile stations. I'm just going to try loop around to get into a good spot ahead of them. I'm not sure which way she's going to go yet. Oh, Sindile is, he's off on a chase. He's seen something, probably a dwarf mongoose or something of the such. His mother is not looking very impressed with him at the moment, as he's disappeared off there. We're now right between the two leopards, and obviously something caught his attention and he scuttled off. Can you hear that very, very soft "arr, arr," and that's Shadow calling him. It's incredible. He's grown so much since the last time I saw him. And he's now almost exactly the same size as his mom. Even, if not even a little bit bigger. So if you guys hear that click click, that's just me taking a few photographs, and I encourage you guys to do the same. I'm sure you're going to get some great screen grabs of this. So, guys, I'm just going to be on the radio just to let the other vehicles know that we found them. Afternoon mobile stations. Is any station on the west copying me? Copy. Located Shadow and Montoine. We're on Triple M, probably 200 meters to the north of the signboards. Also at Mating Tail and Ngala, we're lying up probably 60 meters to the east of the signboards on the Vuyatela side of the road. I keep looking back to where the lions are. So it's difficult to say which side she's taking him, whether she's taking him into Arathusa or into Djuma. I'm sure we'll find out. Quite exciting that we get to hopefully follow them all the way to a fresh kill. I'm just going to try and get up ahead of them. And I'm going to be on the radio again for a second. Stations located Shadow and Monton. Animals are mobile north on Triple M, about 250 meters to the north of the signboards or Gary Main Junction. How's that, Brian? Hey guys, we're going to reverse in front of them so we can keep a lookout. We're also going to have to keep checking behind us. I'm not sure where she's going to go. Murphy's Law. Isn't this wonderful? It's still very exciting to think which way she's going to go or where this possible kill she's leading Sindile back towards. Or is she just moving him because that mating pair of lions has been so close? The one unfortunate thing about them moving along this road is it's one of the busiest roads in the Sabi Sands. So there could be non-game drive vehicles coming in and out because it is the access vehicle, or the vehicle access road. Hello, young Mr. Sindile. Looks like he's playing a game with us. Oh, there's another vehicle coming up the road from behind, and that has caught his attention. He's really watching it. Looks like one of the farm vehicles or the vehicles that the lodgers use, so it's a pickup. And now he's running off to join his mum. Bravery wore a bit thin there. So, as we can see, and I just mentioned, even since the last time I saw him, he's grown exponentially, and he does look like he has very big paws for his body. And James from Kansas would like to know, do I think he is going to grow into those paws? Most certainly, James, if he manages to survive. So with leopards, there's a very high mortality rate for their first year. But once they get beyond that year, that graph drops exponentially till they sort of get to sort of 12, 13 years old again. Oh dear, we are stuck between two white vehicles. Hopefully they don't disturb Shadow and Sindile too much. Fortunately, they do spend a lot of time on this main access road, so I'm sure they are both quite used to these white vehicles going up and down. As you can see, Shadow has not even left the road yet. Sindile is taking a comfort break. So there's a strong possibility that Shadow has come to fetch Sindile and she's made a kill. And Vanessa is wondering, how do the cubs know to stay behind when this happens? Well, Vanessa, she'll actually be quite aggressive and snarly and quite short with him if he tries to follow her when she doesn't want him to follow her. And that's sort of the sign from Mom that he needs to stay behind. Well, imagine this vehicle in front of us. If it's a guest driving into the Sabi Sands for the first time, they're not even at the lodge yet, and there's two leopards wandering down the road straight towards them. A good way to start your holiday, I would think. So I'm quite sure when Shadow does get a little bit closer, she's going to sort of just jump off the side, go around the vehicle. Not too perturbed with the vehicle, but obviously not quite as used to them as they are to our open game drive vehicles. There she goes, right on cue. So we're just going to loop around this vehicle. They should be hopefully coming back towards the road, which they are. I'll just give them a chance. There's a nice open spot in front of us, and they're just moving through the thickets to the right of us. Looks like she has changed her direction. She might head further and deeper into Arathusa. So we shall do the same. Well, so Sindile is full of the joy of life at the moment, and he just sprung up a tree. For no apparent reason, he went straight up this very, very skinny terminalia tree. having a good old game. And Mom doesn't look as impressed. So just his general excitement, he probably hasn't seen his mom for quite a while, and they tend to get excited and he wants to play. Shadow doesn't look like she's having any of it though, I'm afraid. I am hoping, really with fingers crossed, that they are leading, she is leading him back towards a fresh kill, but it is impossible to say. She could be just moving him. Sorry guys, I'm just going to be on the radio again for a few seconds. Stations confirm, you guys copied the update about Shadow and Montoine. Go ahead. I've got them now. I'm just on the northern edge of Knopthorn Clearings, mobile west. Please do. You can see it's incredible amount of distance Sindile covers in comparison to Shadow. Shadow stays sort of very much on track, whereas he runs around in all directions. Let's just scoot around, try to get in front of them. Watch out there, Brian. So you can see directions changed again slightly, heading even more west. Isn't this great? Being able to spend so much time with animals like we are, really are hoping she is leading him back towards a kill. But we will stick with them for as long as possible. And for us, fortunately, they're not choosing similar areas like those cheetah on yesterday's sunset safari, where we had to spend most of our time ducking and diving. And talking about ducking and diving, Beth wants to know if I've ever lost a cameraman, or if any of our cameramen have ever fallen off. Well, Beth, only one cameraman I know has fallen off, and strange enough, we weren't even on game drive. We were just driving between the final control and our camp, and I'm not sure, Brian, what happened when you fell off the vehicle then?
I don't even know how I fell off.
I must have been going less than 5 kilometers an hour, but fortunately Brian, being quite adept, and obviously from his time in the circus, after falling off he landed on his feet. There we go. There, she's led him to a kill, and it is on the ground. It looks like a duiker. Yay! Isn't that great? Awesome, guys. It just had that look about it. She's going to go lie down in the shade, and I'm quite sure young Sindile is going to start feeding. Oh no, or not. It actually looks like, let's have a look once we get in here. A little duiker. So guys, I just need to update the rest of the game drive vehicle, so I'm going to be on the radio for a second or two. But look at that, isn't that wonderful? Ryan, there's a bumper here. See, he's not that hungry. Sorry, had a bit of signal breakup there, but what's happened is we've actually, Shadow has brought Sindile all the way right back to a fresh duiker kill. She hasn't even fed on it yet, so she's brought her cub right here immediately. And there's been quite a lot of discussion about Shadow with kills and raising of cubs. And this is a relatively small animal, and there are numerous trees that are relatively close that she could have chosen to hoist this and put it up in a tree, yet she hasn't. And so keeping a kill on the ground like this definitely puts her at more at risk, and especially if she's got cubs, the cubs more at risk to animals like hyenas and lions. Sorry guys, 1 second, I'm just going to hand over control of the sighting to Ryan, and I will be... Okay, so what we can see there, he's starting to pluck the fur. Guys, it seems to be we're in a very bad signal area, so we keep jumping signal a little bit. We apologize for that. Hopefully it will clear up soon. You can see he's starting to pluck the fur off that little duiker before he starts to feed. And you can see that it looks like Shadow might have done some plucking beforehand, and you can see there's quite a lot of gaps on that animal. And you got nothing like fur on the tongue. He does look like he has fed quite recently. He's not that hungry, so he's not really getting really stuck in. How's that, Brian? Now he's moved it again into the base of that tree, and you can actually see how limp the animal was. So fresh kill, no rigor mortis just yet. So Shadow is lying just off to the right of where Sindile is. No more than 5 meters. Brian is going to show you right now. And you notice she's not feeding off this carcass yet. She is quite full, so it looks like she has made quite a few, or she has been very successful with her hunting recently from what I've heard while I was away. So you can see she's not in desperate need of a meal just yet. Even though Sindile doesn't look like he's in desperate need of a meal either. We must remember she finished off that, I'm not sure, I can't remember if it was a duiker or a steenbok that she didn't bring Sindile to, because it was possibly very close to where the Anderson male was. So Sindile is probably a little bit more hungry than she is. I see if he was extremely hungry, he would have concentrated his plucking one particular spot, then started feeding almost immediately, but he's sort of plucking all around. You can see still very, very alert, checking around. This is possibly one of the more dangerous times when leopards have their kills on the ground. In this area, because of the high densities of lions and hyenas, and other leopards for that matter. So, as you can see, he pulled that carcass with relative ease, and Alice from Ohio was wondering, is he strong enough to hoist this kill? I would say most definitely, I think he is strong enough now to be able to hoist this carcass. can see him battling away with that fur. I'm sure it's quite unpleasant having duiker fur stuck on your tongue. So as we notice him plucking the fur from there, Judith from North Carolina is just commenting that she's seen bald eagles pluck the fur from their kills almost the exact same way. And also, I must admit, Judith, carrying on that, Judith, I've seen other animals like serval and caracal and even cheetah do the exact sort of plucking of fur. Lions do less so, but they do some of it. They're more gluttonous, and especially if there's other lions around, they want to get the meat down as fast as possible. So it'll be interesting to see which part of this duiker he decides to start feeding on first. My guess is he might open up the stomach, possibly start at the rump. So as we watch him sort of plucking, and he's more than likely going to start feeding or opening up a section of the kill at some point. Raisa from the Netherlands, welcome on the Sunset Safari, Raisa. Raisa would like to know, do I think this is possibly his first time opening up a kill? Raisa, probably not. I'm sure this has happened a few times, that Shadow has brought him back to a fully closed carcass, and he would have had to pluck and open it up himself. So speaking, we were just chatting about the American bald eagle. We're going to pop across to James, who's got our sort of probably our closest version to that in looks anyway, and then we'll be back with Shadow and Sindile.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Giga for a quick link. We've pulled you away from magnificent Shadow and her little Sindile. We've come across to a fish eagle that is sitting on the floor there. Now, on the right hand side of your picture you will see a little bush, and that is because I am hiding behind it. It is a Mystroxylon Ethiopican bush, and I'm just worried that the fish eagle will fly away if we try and get any closer to him. Thank you for that, Andrew. Now, what you might not be able to see from this distance is that he is standing 1 foot on what looks to be a catfish. And you can see quite clearly that his crop is very full. I don't know if you can see that his crop is full. And his crop is that swelling you can see at the front of his throat. And that is where a lot of this sort of mastication, fish eagles obviously don't have teeth, and the crop is often full of a few stones, and it's muscular, and it helps to sort of chew, if you like, some of the food before it goes down into the stomach. They also kind of store a bit of food there. If they have to fly away quickly, then they can do that. I believe you were talking a little bit about the American bald eagle and its habit of plucking off feathers and fur. Well, this is the eagle, of course, is the same genus as the American bald eagle, so very close relative. Apart from eating fishies, which is what it's doing now, of course, they also do eat carrion. So then, if there's something rotting about, they will come and eat it. I've certainly seen them films of them killing flamingos, and they'll pluck feathers off flamingos and that sort of thing. So very similar to the behavior shown by Shadow and Sindile at the moment. Quite interesting how the very few animals are able to successfully eat and make use of feathers and hair in their diets. And so the most obvious ones that can, of course, are the hyenas. Beautiful fish eagle, that. And he's sitting in the dam that, I mean, this dam is almost completely dry. This is the dam that Scott and I tried to catch the catfish in. And it was a lot fuller when we tried it. And before you ask, no, we won't be going into that muddy cesspit now. I'm just trying to look at it now, and I can't see exactly how big the fish is, but I tell you what I can see is that he's standing quite a long way. I mean, his left foot or right foot, whichever one is on the fish, is quite high off the ground. His crop is full, and there's still quite a lot of fish left. You can just see, or I don't think you can see, I can see with my binoculars, I can just see a little flash of blood. And so he's clearly eaten quite a lot of it, and yet there's still a huge amount left. So I would say, relative to this fish eagle, he's probably about 2/3 to 3/4 the length of the fish eagle, so a pretty big fish. And I can also see, which I don't know if you'll be able to, Andrew, can you just try and get into the mud there? You'll just see the odd flopping about there in the mud, and that, of course, is the catfish. Some of them can last long time underneath the mud. They'll dig into the mud and survive there during the dry season. There you can see them moving there. You just saw them kicking about there on the left-hand side of your picture. So the fish eagle will be reticent to try and sort of fly off now and leave the fish, but at the same time will be reticent to eat while there's too much activity going on and while his crop is full. Would you just excuse me 1 second? I just need to, while you look at the fish eagle, I just quickly have to go onto the radio to give a quick update. Craig, I am live. I'll come back to you now. Shadow and Cub with Brent, Triple M, Junction, Gary, Main. So I wonder if he'll actually be able to eat that whole fish. I suspect not, you know. I suspect that he's going to have to eventually give it up, because with a crop that full, it's difficult to see how he'd eat a whole lot more than he's eaten. All right, so while we go from one satiated animal to one that's probably a lot more hungry and is busy plucking the hair out of his duiker that his mother has very kindly killed for him, we'll go across back to Sindile, and I'll see what else we can find as we adventure around the wilds of Djuma. See you later.
Welcome back, everyone. As you can see, he's just started to open up the stomach. You can see how he's turning his head to the side, using those overdeveloped molars and premolars as cutting edges. So basically, like a pair of scissors, slicing open the stomach of this duiker. So it's going to be fascinating to see which part of, or which organs in that he's going to go for first. Will he go for the liver, which is very high in iron? Will he go for the kidneys or the heart? So we were really lucky. I mean, we got to see once they've just joined up, and we actually, while we were looking for them, we could hear Shadow calling, and that's one of the ways we actually found these guys. Or actually, the way we found them, I'll tell you now, it's quite amusing. Brian actually found them, but George from Florida would like to know, how did Shadow find her way back here? Did she follow her own scent back to this kill? Well, I'm not 100% sure about that. I think she probably just remembered where it was, like she remembers where she left Sindile, and she would have just made her way back because she knew where it was. He's not that hungry, even though he started opening the stomach. He ends up playing with the kill a little bit. So the funny way we actually found them, what happened was, I heard from another vehicle that they'd just seen a leopard crossing the road, and we went there, we found the tracks, and we drove around the little block she had been in, and we didn't see any tracks coming out. Jumped off the car, walked into the bush, and I hadn't walked 50 meters when Brian started whistling at me, because both Shadow and Sindile had popped out on the road directly in front of Brian. If we have a look at young Sindile's front left claw, looks like it's got a bit of blood on it. And Mike from California, I was just wondering, is that an injury or is it just blood from the kill? Mike, I think it's just blood from the kill. I'll get my binoculars out and have a closer look. But I didn't notice any blood when he was walking down the road, and he was very close to us, so I'm more than likely sure that blood belongs to the duiker. and not to the leopard. Also, if that blood did belong to young Sindile, there would be probably a lot more of a thick layer of dust on it, because he's been walking down that main road that's very, very soft sand, and it's very, very heavy dust, so there would be almost a paste of mud and dust around that foot if that injury. There we go. You can see a bit of the stomach popping open now. So you can see now, that's the sort of, he's going to, hopefully he doesn't make a whoops and actually open the stomach itself and manages to get around. Of course, it's not ideal for them. That would spread the smell quite heavily through, and apart from that, we happen to be sitting directly downwind. But he looks like he's doing it like an expert. He hasn't managed to make a mistake yet and open the stomach properly. So another reason leopards will often remove the stomach and eat those choice organs quite early on is if they were to be approached by a hyena, obviously hoisting a kill without the stomach in it is a lot lighter. They're able to do it a lot quicker. Uh-oh. The problem is if he decides to start playing again, one of those claws could just accidentally put a tear in that lining. You can see he's actually got into the top part of the chest cavity now. Might be getting close to those glorious internal organs. Very, very high in nutrients for a young leopard. So we're going to cross back to James really, really quickly. He's got that fish eagle who's got its kill, and then we'll be back with Sindile dissecting this duiker.
Hi everybody, welcome back to Giga. You can see the fish eagle we've been watching. In case you've just joined us, we've been sat here for now about 20 minutes, hey Andrew?
Yeah.
And the fish eagle picked up his catfish and took it to the bank there, where he is now eating in full glorious view. It's quite a big fish, probably about, I'd say 10 inches long, and maybe even 12 inches long, and he's eaten about half of it from the backside up to the front. And what's interesting to me here is how red the meat is. I have actually eaten catfish before, but it was fried in a batter, so it just tasted like batter really, but it's very red meat in there. He's really enjoying himself. So, not entirely easy to catch a catfish, except for a fish eagle in this area, probably quite easy, given the amount that the water has receded. So, Alice in Ohio, when you ask, am I jealous that the fish eagle succeeded where I did not? I'm not so much jealous, but you ask if I was embarrassed. I'm more jealous than I am embarrassed. Alice, I'm not blessed with great talons like that, or the ability to fly. But yes, I am left with a certain slightly bitter taste in my mouth that fish eagle has caught what I failed to do a little while back. And for those of you who don't know, about 2 weeks ago, I tried to catch a fish eagle, not a fishy. No, I've never tried that. I tried to catch a catfish in this water here, covered myself in mud, and made a general fool of myself. Scott then did the same. Caught a fish, but unfortunately he wasn't live when he did it. He's having a great meal. It's quite interesting the difference in his feeding strategy compared with something like a heron, for example, or one of those beautiful saddle-billed storks that we see here quite often. They will take the fish and basically they'll swallow it whole, or try and chop it in half if they can. It up like the eagle does. So they tend to swallow it whole. That's a really good meal for that fish eagle. And like I say, they don't only eat fish. I've seen quite a lot of footage of them smashing flamingos in those huge flocks in East Africa. He didn't seem to have too much trouble carrying it to where he is now, but only, in fact, no, I'm actually talking nonsense. He only just got off the ground, actually, and then went and landed up there, and I think he'd probably quite like to take it up into a tree, but I think it's quite heavy still. There's a very interesting question coming through. You can all see that he's eating, he's full, and I don't know that he'll be able to finish that fish. He might be able to. And Mavis, you basically want to know that if he had a nest nearby, which I don't think he does, but if he did, would he take it up there and basically store it in a sort of pantry and keep it? Mavis, I don't know. You know, birds don't live in nests unless they are breeding. So maybe he'd take a piece up if he had. I'm using the term he when it could be a she. You can actually tell from the length of the white, but I'm not sure at this stage. So Mavis, he may actually carry it up to a nest if he had some chicks there, or a chick, but they don't live in nests but for when they're breeding. So I don't think that he'd be able to store it, but for the fact that if he was breeding or he had some chicks. There you can see a good size of the bird, not the bird, the fish. So that's just the front end left, that's the head. You can see the whiskers. pulling the flesh off there, and just watch carefully there, and we can probably pick up the different pieces of the body that he's eating. So he's eating bits and pieces of skin and some flesh. And Tyler, you want to know if he eats bones. I think he'll eat some of the small bones, Tyler, but probably not all of them. So the backbone, which will come apart in little small chunks, I suspect he'll probably eat. He may well discard the ribs, though. You know, that beak is very dexterous. He's very good at cutting bits out of it, but he might eat the bones. He'd certainly be able to digest them if he got them into his body. But I suppose your question probably comes from wondering if they're able to, if they have trouble with fish bones like we do in our throats. And I'm not really sure. I don't think so, no. While we're watching him eat, we have an interesting question from Judith in Carolina. Hello, Judith. You'd like to know, does he sort of regurgitate a casting of bones and scales and things? Judith, as far as I'm aware, they don't. And that's because you can see how carefully he's eating it. So the most obvious example of a bird that does that would be something like a barn owl. But remember, a barn owl will swallow a mouse whole, or a rodent whole, and so it's got to process all the bones and hair internally and then spit them out. Whereas a bird like this is being quite picky about what he eats. So while he might regurgitate a little bit, I don't think that it would be nearly as obvious as something like a barn owl which swallows its prey whole. You know, he's just picking out the bits that he wants, and he'll leave out the bits that he doesn't like. He's a magnificent bird. I've never seen this before. It's really special to be able to spend an extended period like this. Now, quite often, fish eagles are found in pairs, and this one is on its own. And Cheryl in Orlando, you want to know if they mate for life. As far as I'm aware, they do not. They certainly form monogamous pairs, but I don't think those are necessarily for life. So I'm just going to quickly check it out. But I'm pretty sure that what happens with a lot of the birds that we tend to think of as monogamous tend to be, they'll be monogamous for a while, but that doesn't mean that they'll be like that for life. So yes, they are monogamous. I'm just looking at my bird application at the moment, and it does say they're monogamous, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that that's forever. So they'll be monogamous for a while, maybe for 1 or 2 or 3 breeds. One partner would just, and then they'll probably find another one. So they probably are largely monogamous, but that may change over time. But they certainly don't have more than one mate at a time. Yeah, sorry about that black screen we had there. We had a bit of a signal breaker, satellite colliding with an asteroid, or perhaps an incoming alien spacecraft, who knows. And just to reiterate there, fish eagles are monogamous to the point that they don't have multiple partners, but whether those bonds last for life, I'm not sure. Thank you for that from Orlando. I've been to Orlando, but only as a very small boy, so I don't remember it really. Interesting. We were looking at this bird, and as we saw it, I said to you that it was related quite closely to the American bald eagle. And Vanessa, you want to know exactly what the difference is. The answer is I don't know exactly what the difference is, but for the fact that I know that the American bald eagle is much bigger than this bird. The fish eagle is pretty big, but an American bald eagle is much larger than this. So pretty similar looking. I think the diet's not entirely dissimilar either. I think an American bald eagle will eat fish. They've probably got a slightly more Catholic diet though. They probably eat a bit more. And these ones will also eat small mammals and the odd reptile if they can get them. Oh, here comes another one, Andrew, to the left. Pay attention. It might come down and try and steal this one. Calling. They're both shouting at each other. Isn't that wonderful? He's come off the... Andrew's come off the kill. I don't know why he's done that. I'll watch the other one. I'll tell you where he's coming. He's coming sort of round the back. No, he's landing. He's landing in a tree, don't worry. Oh, there we go. So he left the kill. Oh, sorry about that. They've gone into the drainage line. We'll get a picture now. So while we're driving, that's wonderful. Oh, just, sorry Andrew, I'm going to huck you here. Just point your camera straight through there, over the top of the... There we go, now focus, there we go. Look at that beautiful elephant coming towards the water. That's beautiful. Lorraine, you wanted to know, do they eat head first like ospreys? No, they don't. Well, not always. That one, as you can see, has left the head. In fact, we'll go and look at the remains there. But he's left the head and he's eaten the back parts. Wonderful. So we'll just have how fish eagles are now, and then we'll see where that elephant. There's the one, and there's the other. You got them both there, Andrew? I don't know if you can get them both in picture. So there's the one that was eating. That's the one that's just landed there. And then his friendie, or her friendie, is sitting up in that rather magnificent jackalberry tree, looking very regal indeed. Beautiful fish eagle sighting. I don't know why, though, it would have left the one on the prey on the ground. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Marvelous. Andrew, let's go and have a look at the remains of the fish and see if we can't see the elephant. Excellent. Right up here. Oh, it's a nice bull. Right, we're just going to quickly look at the fish kill. I'm a bit reticent to pick it up, but maybe I'm going to have to. We'll go back to Brent. So I just want to quickly show you this kill. That is a great foulness on the land. So As you can see, the head still fully intact, the behind not so much. Now this fish was probably that long, so almost the length of the fish eagle, 3/4 to 2/3. Andrew, is the elephant coming?
Yes, it's approaching.
All right, I'm going to put this fish down and return myself to the vehicle if it's all the same to you. All right, we'll get into a position for this elephant, and I think it's time for you to go and see how Sindile is doing. No, still alive?
Welcome back, everyone. As you can see, young Sindile is making short work of the internal organs. He's had quite a difficult time removing some of the pieces of the intestine to get to the good parts. As you can see, lying up on the front end of the duiker is some feces that has actually come from the last little bit of the intestine, and then still some of the smaller bits of the intestine from higher up in the digestive process. So for those of you who might have joined us a little bit late on the sunset safari, or you might be a new viewer, and particularly for Matthew, who's aged 8, Matthew was wondering, what is this leopard cub eating? Well, Matthew, it looks like he's eating a female duiker, a little antelope. Also, for the rest of you who don't know, we happened to find them very early on this sunset safari. And it just looked like Shadow was leading Sindile back towards a kill, so we're quite excited while we're following them. But also remember, guys, you're seeing this live. You are seeing a leopard devour a duiker live in real time at the exact same time as me. And not only are we live, we are interactive, so you are able to ask us questions about what we're seeing, like young Matthew just did. And you can do that by emailing us on questions@wildearth.tv, or you can use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. So we're going to sit here to see how the dissection of this duiker continues by young Sindile. Apparently James has had a new arrival at the waterhole, so we're going to cross back to see what he's got.
Hi everybody, this is just so wonderful. This elephant's come down to the mud, and he's not going to be drinking anything here, but he's been tossing mud all over the place. You can see he's been kicking it into the pool where the catfish are now frolicking about, and he's just having a whale of a time here in the mud. Isn't that wonderful?
No.
Oh! So he's a youngish bull. He's not a fully grown bull. So he's still got a little bit of playfulness left in him. And this mud is a wonderful way to cool off and get rid of a few ectoparasites. And it's probably just fun as well, you know. He's looking much ashamed of himself. You You hear his tail going clop, clop, clop. You know, you see the way he's holding his trunk over his tusk, and that is quite a common sign that he's... Must bulls do that, but I can't see any other sign that he's in must. He's quite probably a little bit young to be in must, but it's possible that he's in must. Oh, that's wonderful. Just really nice to see. And I mean, he's probably, I would put this elephant at roughly 20 to 25 years. And they can have their first must at about 17, but it won't be a very long must. And I think that if he's probably 20 to 25, so he might be about to have a little must. See how he's shaking his head? He might be a little bit irritated, so it's possible. But he's not dripping. He's not dripping that fairly strong-smelling, odorous stuff from his penis, which tends to happen when they're in full. We might follow him for a little bit. Let's go down the bank there, Andrew. Held on tight. Oops, sorry. Dropped the clutch a bit there. Careful not to run over the fish eagle's midnight snack. Come on, chaps, your meal's still here. I certainly don't want to eat it. Yuck. Right, Andrew, ready to say wee. I think he's going to probably go down into the drainage line, where the last bits of nutritious food are to be found. We'll just get onto the road behind him so that we don't make you all seasick. And I'm going to take a gamble and go down here. I don't think it's much of a gamble. It's pretty definitely get a good shot. Here it comes. Thank you to Joyce, who says that the elephant that's been rolling in the mud reminds her of Scott and I in our attempt to catch catfish. Thanks for that, Joyce. Yeah, and that could well be a sign of must. You see how he's flinging his ears about like that. I'll try and get up above him. Right, Andrew. He actually looks a bit like me and Scott after our leaping into now what he's doing. I don't know if you can get in on his trunk there, but he's definitely smelling. He's just holding it back and smelling towards us. sorry about that. And this elephant is going to disappear. So when we do drive, you may lose us periodically. So I'm sorry about that in advance. What I'm going to do to try and avoid it is to go up top here and see if we can't follow him from the top of the drainage line. Hold on, Andrew. Take your dentures out. Here we go. Which route to go? Back through, yeah.
So, welcome back everyone. Let me just let you know what's going on. At the moment, we've been spent so much time with Sindile and Shadow, we gave the other vehicles a chance to get in there so they could have a look. And what we're doing is we're going to go try to find those mating lines from this morning. They're just down the road. They're actually causing a traffic jam. So I think they're mating in the middle of the road again. Brian's going to show you. So there's people that are trying to get home or get to work, and they have a lion traffic jam. So there are 3 game drive vehicles with them. So we are taking a standby, but we will be going there shortly. So we apologize for the gremlins that have seemed to be plaguing James and even me a little bit this sunset safari. Hopefully Eugenius and Alex, our tech geniuses, will be sorting it out as quickly as possible. So while we're sitting here next to the road waiting to go see those lions, I'm going to take a little stroll into the bush to see what I can find to keep you entertained. So I wonder what could be out here in the wilderness. You can see here we have a very rare type of elephant that can sometimes be found, and instead of tusks it has a chainsaw, and it has completely cut this weeping wattle down and hasn't even fed on it. And not only has it cut it, it's cut it into segments, so when it dries it'll make very good firewood. This particular elephant, his name is Jim Reeves, and Jim Reeves is the farmer manager from Djuma. So not quite an elephant, he is a large man though, and the reason being that this area has been cut and cleared, and those trees cut and cleared, is one of 2 reasons. There's also electricity lines running above us, and obviously they don't do well with trees growing into them. Another main reason why this area is kept so clear is it is a fire break. So if a fire had to run away from somewhere else in the reserve, this is one of the areas where we'd be able to stop the fire to ensure it doesn't burn the whole reserve. Let me just jump back on the radio. I think it looks like there's a vehicle leaving, so it should be our turn. Craig, I copied. So yeah, I'll be with you in 2. There we go. So that vehicle, a cavalcade we saw there that was trying to sneak past those lines, actually are on their way to a very important Sabi Sands meeting. So they are going to try sneak past those lines, I'm quite sure, like we saw with Sindile and Shadow. They are quite used to these vehicles traveling up and down these main access roads, so it's not an issue for them. Obviously not so nice for us on game drive, but fortunately we're going to arrive after they have already departed. And what better excuse to have that I was late for my meeting than I got stopped by a pair of mating lion in the middle of the road. And literally there you can see the absolute pandemonium they're causing, because obviously not everyone's got 4-wheel drives, so the poor little cars have had to off-road around these lines, who are literally in the middle of one of the main access roads in the Sabi Sands. Quite inconvenient for everyone, but as you can see, the lions don't seem to think much of the passing vehicle cavalcade. Just gonna jump around Craig so we can get a visual of them from the heads. Hello, hello. Thanks very much. How's that, Brian? So, as I'm sure James told you this morning, on average, lions will mate normally once every 15 minutes for up to 5 or 6 days. So as far as I know, I think they've been mating for nearly 5 days now. They haven't been within our Travis area on all those days, so they have moved to and from. But I know for a fact it's been at least 2 or 3 days. So probably 4 or 5 days that they have been mating. So when it gets towards the end of a mating cycle, quite often it can be a little bit longer between mating sessions, so maybe not the 15 minutes, although I think, as I remember James telling me, they were quite vigorous this morning. So they are looking a little bit skinny during this mating time, and Mandy was wondering, do they stop to eat during this mating period? Well, Mandy, like all predators, they are opportunists, so if a chance for a meal does arise, they will definitely take it. But quite often they might not eat during this during the mating phase. But now, as they get towards the end, it is possible that they will hunt. And as I said, being opportunists, if an opportunity to kill something does arise while they are mating, they will definitely not turn it down. So, as you can see, they are looking quite content in the middle of the road here. And when lions mate, they do pair off away from the rest of the pride. Sometimes you might find two males or another male lying in close proximity to try get into the bandwagon. It's very possible that she will mate with both the males in this coalition to try and ensure the best chance at impregnation by one of them, or even possibly by both. And the rest of the Styx pride with the cubs is probably 2 or 3 kilometers from here. I'm not sure of the exact location, but to the south of us somewhere. I heard that they were found to the south of us this morning. But while they're mating, they will separate from the rest of the pride. So obviously with such multiple matings, there is a question whether this male is starting to suffer from slight impotence after such a long period. And Judith from North Carolina was wondering, so is the semen still viable? Judith, as far as I'm aware, it is, but he won't be producing as much. So pardon my colloquial term, but I'm quite sure not all the mating is successful, and he probably is shooting a few blanks while it mating, but I'm sure he is still producing viable semen. Now, if we think about what we've seen recently, we'll chat about that just now, guys. We're going to jump across to James quickly, who's with the largest member of the Big Five. So we've got 3 today, but off to James.
Hi everybody, welcome back to Jiga, and we've just found a huge herd of elephants. Well, I mean, you can only see 2 of them, but there are about 1, 2, 3 there, 5 in front of us, and another 15 or so behind, so about 30 of them. And you can see that tiny little one there. That's why we stopped here. I suspect this is her mum, so we'll just wait for her to go past. You can see she's watching us quite carefully. The little one running after mum. Oh, it's beautiful. Followed closely by a couple of fork-tailed drongos. That little thing's well under a year old. You can see it would easily fit under its mum's belly. It's really nice. And just in case you're wondering what that thundering noise is, it is a water pump. So I'm sorry about that, but there's naught I can do about it. Andrew, just to the right of us, there are a whole lot more coming through this path here. We'll just have a quick look at them. Look at that. Beautiful. I wonder where they're all going. They're walking with quite a purpose now. I'm going to make a little prediction and say that maybe they're going to go to Gowrie Waterhole. They were a treehouse dam, but as we know, elephants do like to drink fresh water. Now you see how they all suddenly moved off in one direction? That's got nothing to do with us. They've received a command from the matriarch. I think that's where they're going. You know, Treehouse Dam is a cesspit at the moment. Not quite as bad as the one we were at, but it's pretty bad. So let's follow them and let's see where they go. I think they're probably going to go for the fresh stuff at Gowrie Waterhole. They may prove me entirely wrong and just stop to eat. What do you think, Andrew?
Tough call.
You see why I don't talk to Andrew very often, everybody. Some more there, there's another one there. And they're all going straight through the drainage line now. Maybe they're just going to go and have an eat there, I don't know. Sorry, this pump is going to get loud, so I apologize for it. Thank you. Watch carefully where they go. They're definitely coming through the drainage line here, and they're being very confiding by allowing us to be so close to them. Now, we were watching, of course, a young bull before we lost the signal, and he was being great. And he's headed off to the east of here. He's walking away from them. He's definitely not part of this herd. But, you know, if he is coming to musk, like I thought he might be, then if there's an estrus female here, he'll pick that up, he'll pick that scent up, and he'll try and find the herd. They're going straight across Ingwe Alley, which is this road here. I think they're going to go towards Gowrie Waterhole. We'll just stop here for a little while, Andrew. And you just move forward for these folks in front of us, behind us. There we go. I'll stop here for a little while, and we'll just see. That's just the front, or that's probably the middle of the herd. There are a whole lot more in the back there. Right, I think that we're not going to bash them. Yeah, you can hear one of them calling. Yeah, they're starting to come across. Go, and you can hear one of them starting to break some trees. Tell you, we'll just nip in here, I think, Andrew, rather than wait here. They do seem to be heading slightly east. In other words, that's a youngster making a big noise. A fairly terrifying noise, I must say, very primal. Very upset about something. The little one. It's so funny when they stick their ears out like that. I wonder if we should go in here. Let's just pop in here quickly. Seem to be moving quite as fast as they were. They found a green tree and it is now being macerated. Absolutely torn to pieces. two green trees, in fact. Look at this one here. So I'm sorry about that pump, everybody, that you can hear. It sounds a little bit like a helicopter, and Gilly in Milwaukee, you thought maybe it was indeed a helicopter doing a game count. Gilly, it's not a helicopter, it's a water pump sending water to various different camps around the place. It's about as aged as, well, it's probably about almost 100 years old, this pump actually. That's why it's so noisy. And Gilly, they do still do the elephant counts and all of the game counts. And I have taken part in one, and you're absolutely correct, they do do them from helicopters, but I do not have a stomach that is particularly conducive to motion. So I'm all right in a car, in an aeroplane, but in a helicopter, I'm afraid my gut tends to do some rather funky things. So I didn't enjoy the experience at all, because what the chopper does, it flies along like this, and as soon as it sees a herd of impala, it sort of circles around them in this swaying boat-like motion. And by the end of my time on the game count, I felt thoroughly sick. I had to walk home. They dropped me off in the bush. I said, that's it, thank you very much, I'm done. And I walked home from there. Should we sneak a little bit forward, Andrew?
Yeah.
Oh, there. Okay, let's just go a little bit forward here. It's a big herd of elephants, this. This guy's quite close. Have a look at him. Yeah. He's enjoying a bit of strychnos. We're going to nip across to Brent quickly. He seems to have some lion love about to occur. See you.
Here we go, guys. So we waited out with patience, and we managed to get that little bit of mating there. And you noticed, you heard a bit of that growling and snarling, and a very soft neck biting. And that's another way we can tell that this mating is quite well developed in its time. It's been a few days already, because in the beginning it is a lot more aggressive. Obviously the female has now mated multiple times with this male, so that barb penis is not having as a big of effect as it did in the beginning. So it's not as painful for her when he withdraws, so she's less aggressive with him and not trying to smack him in the head. I got a sneaky suspicion that eye twitch that you noticed this morning on the sunrise safari is from getting a good smack in the face towards the beginning of this mating. And that is it, and probably we shall have no more movement from these two for about another 15 to 20 minutes. So these Matimba male coalition are quite an impressive pair, and I've got a question from someone who has the Twitter handle Matimba Male Lions. So I presume you guys, whoever you might be, are a big fan of the Matimba males. And sorry, let me just turn that down. And they would like to know whether the Matimba male lions are the biggest lions I've seen in the Sabi Sands. They're definitely up there. I don't think they are possibly the biggest. I think some of the Mapocho males were bigger, and I think Salati males, which I saw a long time ago when they were quite young, but I've seen them recently in the Manuleti. Definitely not as impressive looking with the manes, far smaller, more scraggly manes, but bodily size I think physically a bit bigger than the Matimba guys. And I haven't seen the Birminghams yet, so I cannot judge whether any of those guys are possibly going to be bigger. But I would say definitely in the top 5 largest male lions that I've seen in the Sabi Sands. Sleepy kitties now. So while we wait for a little bit more action with these sleeping kitties, we're going to cross back to James, and hopefully those ellies are heading towards water for a drink.
Hi everybody, welcome back. I believe the lions did exactly what I thought they wouldn't do after this morning. I thought the mating time was coming to a finish. Anyway, we've got a beautiful picture here of an elephant coming just out of the setting sun. There he comes, and he's a little bit ornery. He came onto the road and shook his head at us as if to say, what are you doing with my herd? And this is typical of elephant herds, with the young bulls lurking about at the back like recalcitrant teenagers that don't wish to walk with their parents in the shops. And that's exactly what he's doing. Doesn't want to be around the kids anymore, feels he's a bit above that. They are heading still in the general direction of the Gowrie waterhole, so I think that we shall follow them along. I'm going to move along this road a bit, Andrew, if that's okay with you. Obviously don't want to put you out. Here we go. It's really a very large herd of elephants. It sits. So while we've got the elephant bull at the back, we do have a leader in the herd, and that of course it's a matriarchal society, so the female will lead, and the matriarch, indeed Lindsay on Twitter, thank you for your question. You want to know, is it the matriarch that leads from the front? And that's exactly what happens, she does lead from the front. This used to be a road of some sort, so I think we'll follow it for now. Very good road, it's a very bad road. Let's go this way. A little bit indecisive, there are elephants all over the place. Get Andrew into position where he can backlight or frontlight them. Yeah, they're feeding through there. I'll go up here and stop, Andrew. Okay. So we've now got them all around us, which is really wonderful. Beautiful. Just finding bits and pieces of combretum. Most of them seem to be eating combretum, and it's mainly the bark, of course, that they're eating. It's about the only thing left. Christine, while we're watching these elephants feeding through here, what you wanted to know was about the elephant bull's penis that we saw, and it was hanging out, substantial organ that it is, and you want to know why they hang them out, and is there, because they seem to do it under a variety of different circumstances, not necessarily associated with mating. I don't know exactly, Christine. I think there are various reasons for it, but it's normally associated with some kind of excitement. So sometimes when they're around other bulls and they're fighting, sometimes their penis will pop out. Sometimes when that one, as you can see, was excited by hanging around in the mud. And at other times, of course, when the bull is in must, it'll often just pop out and say hello. So that's basically why, Christine, I think. I'm not entirely sure as to, all the reasons, but it's something to do with excitement, definitely. And an elephant bull in must, nowhere near any females, will often have his penis hanging out. Which, when you've got a lot of children on your game drive vehicle, does result in some slightly awkward questions, which I normally allow their parents to field. So if there are any young children watching, ask your parents what we're talking about. All right, we're going to move on just up and over this little ridge here. See if we can get another nice view. Heat of the day is just starting to come off. The light's softening. It's turning into a beautiful afternoon. Not so, Andrew?
Wonderful.
It is very thick in here. I don't want to go bashing after them because it'll make them nervous. So we'll try and find a kind of easy route through here. No matter how quiet you try and be in these Land Rovers, it's not really that easy. Andrew, I'm sorry to do this to you. Before we go back to the elephants, can you see the little chin spot batis? My head out of the way. Sorry, everybody, we always hear those birds. How's that, Andrew?
Very nice.
Yeah. And the chin spot batis is that tiny little bird there. That's the male. So the female's got a little spot on her chin. And one of the only birds that's named after a female characteristic. Not a sexist bird, of course. All right, so while we're driving along here, we saw that elephant swimming in the mud, and you could see how thick that mud was, and I put my feet into that mud. And Sandy, you want to know basically, do elephants get stuck in the mud, A, and B, would we get them out? There are two answers to that. Well, there are probably any number, but I'm going to give you two. The first is that if it was a young calf that got stuck in the mud, the mother and the rest of the herd would eventually lift it out. And if it was an older elephant and it got stuck there, you want to know, would we help it out or would we let nature take its course? I'm not entirely sure, but I suspect we would probably help, and I'll tell you why. It's because it's a man-made dam, so that amount of mud there is not a natural phenomenon. This time of the year, normally water would be found in much sandier areas around rivers, and that's where they would be. So I think that we would definitely try and help if an elephant got stuck in, in a man-made watercourse. So if an animal is in distress because of an anthropomorphic effect, like a dam built or something like that, then absolutely we will normally help out. And there isn't anything like quicksand here, so it's just that mud that does sometimes, it can get them stuck. And there are lots of records of elephants getting stuck in mud and then being pulled out either by other elephants or by kind-hearted people. They are still feeding through this area. It's not the clearest area in the world. Not the Serengeti, is it, Andrew?
Negative.
No, more like the Burundi impenetrable forest. They are still feeding all around here. Andrew, you'll be pleased with this question. Charlene in Los Gatos in California, I'm not sure how you say it, thank you for your question. You are concerned for Andrew's safety, and you want to know if he's wearing a seatbelt or some kind of harness. He isn't actually. He's fairly precariously perched on the back of the Land Rover, but he's got quite a nice little nest to sort of sit on. He's now showing us his biceps to show his strength. Do you feel unsafe, Andrew?
No.
He feels all right. So, I mean, in all seriousness, the interesting thing about it is that he does stick out of the Land Rover much more than I do. So when we go into cat sightings, often the first thing the cat does is skim its eyes over the vehicle and then they look up towards the back. But that's, I mean, it's no different from on a game viewer where you've got a tier of 6 seats, and they'll always look towards the back first, or often look towards the back first, or towards the tracker on the front. So he's just the most obvious prominent tree. And then in an elephant sighting, I mean, I've had 1 or 2 where I've been a little bit worried that one of them we might have to move out quite quickly, and I'll just say to him, hold on. And then he'll lock the camera off in place and just hold on to where he is. And hopefully we won't lose him. The greatest danger to Andrew, of course, is from the sticks that flick up, that I duck, and they catch him square on the forehead, which is not a very nice thing for him. Thank you for that. In Los Gatos, California. Right, we'll carry on through this. Most of these trees that you can see around us here are called monkey oranges, green monkey orange, or Strychnos madagascarensis, so named for the strychnine, which is a nasty poison that will eventually stop your heart, that is found only in very minute quantities in the seeds of the fruit. And they're an encroacher species. And you'll see these elephants walking through here, ignoring the strychnos completely. They don't like to eat it. Not sure why. Sorry about the noise, everyone, but if we want to watch these elephants, I'm afraid we do have to go through here. It is getting rather impenetrable at this stage, though. And we will try and go around that way, Andrew. I know yesterday you had a long session, and for those of you who weren't here, Brent had to follow some cheetah through some heavy terrain. I don't think it's quite as bad as that. And just to keep you updated, Brent is still with the lions. And as soon as anything exciting happens there, we will take you back. Often do elephants have gone through a clearing. Phew. You're right there, Andrew.
Yes.
It's not exactly opening out, is it? What's your head, Andrew?
All good.
I'm actually going to stop here for a little while. Oh, that's so much nicer. And they're still just all feeding around us here, all around. And just amazing that despite the noise we're making, they're being so totally confiding with us. There was a drongo. You can hear a drongo calling just up ahead there. Well done, Andrew. That is the fork-tailed drongo. And he's mimicking a rattling testicular. There we go. Beautiful. You got him there, Andrew. Right there. Look at that. That's wonderful. So while we look at that fork-tailed drongo sitting on a strychnos branch, we've got a very interesting question from Brenda. Brenda, you say that you asked the question, do elephants eat evergreen trees? Because you say you've noticed that they seem to be ignoring them. Brenda, that is an exceptional observation and a very astute one. And it has a number of answers to it. But the most obvious one is they will eat evergreen trees provided the evergreen tree doesn't have a lot of chemical protection. So a lot of the trees that are evergreen and don't have thorns have chemical compounds in the leaves that make them either unpalatable or poisonous to elephants or to any of the browsers. And especially at this time of year, if you want to avoid being eaten and you want to be an evergreen, then you better make sure that you're extremely well defended. So the most obvious example, and I've spoken about this a few times over the last week or so, is the guarri bush, Euclea divinorum. And actually, Andrew, there's one right over there. That's a version of it. That's the Natal guarri just over there, that green bush that Andrew's going to show you now. There it is. And you can see that bush remains unmolested. And that's because the leaves taste horrific. They've got a very high chemical compound, very sort of high distasteful chemical in it. I don't know what it is. Just look at that beautiful sunset going down there. I don't know what it is, but it tastes like tannin when you taste them, and the elephants just ignore them. So they will eat evergreen bushes if they're the right kind of bushes, but at this time of the year, wow, Andrew, that's very artistic of you. At this time of the year, they will tend to avoid a lot of the evergreens because the evergreens are very well defended by chemicals. Nice question. Thank you for that. That's stunning. Very beautiful indeed. All right, I suppose we better try and continue moving through this fairly thick area. Okay, here we go, everybody. Gird your loins, remove your dentures, and don't spill your drinks. I think we're going to go around like that, Andrew. It's a good idea to do some bush clearing every so often. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
There we go. Vast plain spread out in front of us. know about this area. It's quite a nice spot. Something else has met its demise here. I see that there's a bit of a clearing around one or two bones. So I think something was killed a while back in here. We'll just stop here. Can you have a look at that one, Andrew? Just digging up some sand there to throw on him or herself. Now, all we've got there, I'm afraid, is a bit of tree, but he is behind the tree and he's digging himself a hole. Now, we're on a sandy ridge crest here, and what the elephants like to do is dig away at the sand and throw it over themselves. It helps with ectoparasites. And the ridge crest areas here, you can see we're quite high up, and from the view of the sun that we got, and from the sort of, it definitely opens up towards the top of the ridges, and so they like the sandy soil, so they can toss it over themselves. Just plugging myself in. So while we wait for these elephants, I'm sorry, it's not a great view of them, but they are still in some thick stuff, and I'm not going to chase them through here and make a big noise. We'll just follow them gently at the back. I mean, I say big noise, relative term, of course. We have made quite a big noise already. But we'll just follow them through here. I think they'll probably go into those clearings next to Gowrie Dam eventually. Whether it'll still be light or not, I'm not sure. But we got a lovely shot of that drongo. With, and apparently a lot of you have taken some screen grabs and shown it. Thank you very much for that. Well done, Andrew. And apparently you can very clearly see the tooth on the end of the beak. And that's normally a characteristic associated with shrikes. A lot of them have got teeth on the side of the beak. There's another drongo there. And that tooth, of course, helps them a lot when they're killing insects. And it's basically like a little spear on the end of the beak. This one's behaving like a bat. And while they follow the elephants, they start to pick up on us too. You know, when we're moving through an area like this, they will start to follow the vehicle because the vehicle's having exactly the same effect as the elephants. In fact, it's having more of an effect. So as we push over the one or two trees, it'll make a few insects flip up. It'll unearth a couple of grubs from the ground perhaps, and they'll hawk down and grab them and then carry on off and sit next to us where we can take beautiful pictures of them. Just sneak a little bit further forward. They are moving very slowly sort of to the northeast. I almost feel like I'm part of this herd. That is Flugia verosa, Andrew. Just going to turn through here, and I think I might head down that way. See if we can't get out of this melange. A very regular viewer as we watch a hornbill flying off. Gerda, you were very sharp this evening, I must say. You said, was that a pearl-spotted owl calling, or was it the drongo imitating a pearl-spotted owlet? It was the drongo, and that was very well spotted. So the drongo does do mimics other birds. It's not the best mimic in the world, but the one that it does do, especially at this time of day, is the pearl-spotted owl. And for those of you who don't know, pearl-spotted owl is a little bird, a little owl, obviously, and it makes a very obvious call that goes a little bit like this. Andrew?
That was really good.
Thank you very much. Andrew likes to build me up. And the drongo, tries to take that off, especially at this time of the day. So you'll hear that sound. It's sort of, they do it half-heartedly. They'll go and they'll land in a tree and they'll go, then they'll go off and they go and do it again somewhere else. And we don't really know why they do that, because birds will very seldom be fooled by us trying to take off their calls. And I mean, to me, it's very obvious. Like Gerda has seen, I mean, Gerda's not even looking at the bird, and she can tell from Holland that it's not a real pearl-spotted owl. So I can't believe it's trying to con other birds that it might be a pearl-spotted owl. I'm not sure. Right, a little bit forward, Andrew. Sneaking through this very unmuddy patch. We'll go back to the question about the mud. There's a very little elephant here. Andrew, do you see the small elephant?
Yes.
Tiny little elephant. I will answer your question now about the mud. Let's just watch this little fellow hiding behind a little bush. How sweet he is. So sweet. So, interesting one about if we were to find an elephant caught in the mud, how would we get it out if we decided to help? And the answer is that basically I've seen it done where you would try and get some kind of a tow rope, tie it around the elephant, and then pull it out. Basically, that's how it would be done. Very agricultural. And this, I think this might be the same little one that we saw earlier. It looks about the same size. Not that one, obviously, that's the mother. And she's just trying to find little pieces of root which still maintain a bit of nutrition. And you can see the little one there trying to mimic her by using its trunk and failing dismally. Oh, there, he's got it. He's got it. Look at that. Now, I think this one's a little bit older than the one we saw earlier, you know. The little one we saw earlier would not be able to use its trunk like that. That's actually tremendously competent trunk usage for an elephant that size. Hello, old girl. Oh, she's lovely. Look at her. Yeah, no, he's definitely older, sorry. So he's about, I've put him at about 18 months. So sweet. The bush is not clearing out a great deal here. Beautiful sky. So let's just tell you what I can smell. Egyptian geese flying by. I'm just going to quickly tell you a little bit about what I can smell and what I can hear. Elephants smell like sort of sweet leather. Andrew, how would you can you smell them?
Leathery.
It is leathery, hey, but it's a different kind of leather. It's an unmistakable leathery smell. Then it's quite dusty, so there's that smell, scent in the air. And there's a nice breeze blowing from the northwest. Little faint hint of smoke in the air, probably from the communities, because the air is blowing from them, where they are probably lighting their cooking fires now. It's a very beautiful evening. Right, we're going to move slowly forward. And Judith, you say that you've seen elephants completely submerged and surviving floods by using their trunks as periscopes or snorkels. That's exactly what they do. I think stuck in the mud, though, if they only had their trunks out, breathing wouldn't be the issue. It would be the fact that they would be trapped. They wouldn't be able to move, they wouldn't be able to eat. And an elephant can't lie down for too long because the organs are very heavy. They start to press on each other and they eventually cross deep water. They'll play in water a lot. Oh, look, there are quite a few of them up here. They'll play in deep water, and that's just from and use the trunks as snorkels. Let's watch the thorns here. I actually think they're heading towards quarantine clearings now. See that? They've veered off from the beautiful. We're going to go across to Brent quickly. He's got something exciting. I'll see you now. Bye-bye.
There we go, guys. Almost 15, or a little bit longer than 15 minutes. You can see she's even stopped rolling onto her back to try and ensure the semen stays inside. This is very possibly the last evening of mating, and I think as they've moved off the road finally. Hopefully everyone who's coming back from the meeting is not going to have as hard a time getting home. And you can see that. Let's see if the twitch was there on his right eye. It seems to be a bit better than it was. It's still there though, and I do think it is possibly from getting a hiding, and he's got a bit of swelling around his eye. But this is definitely, as line mating goes, I'd say some of the cuddliest I've watched in a while. So we're chatting a little bit about whether this poor Matimba male is possibly shooting blanks at the moment. It is a possibility. I think, as far as my understanding is, they will continue to produce semen, but obviously with the frequency of mating that happens towards the end, and especially this seems to be even more elongated than usual. that is possibly running a little low, but I'm not 100% sure. Maybe you guys can check online, see if you can find anything where the lions run out of semen before the end of a mating period, and I'll also double check if you guys don't manage to get anything when I get back to camp tonight. Obviously, the biggest threat for the Matimba coalition is the Birmingham boys. And Matimba Male Lion on Twitter would like to know if they've started scent marking within the Matimba's territory. I'm not 100% sure. I still have not seen the Birmingham boys, but they are definitely vocalizing. And if they are vocalizing, I'm pretty sure they would have started scent marking. Whether they will defend those scent marks or not is a completely different story. They are still somewhere to the north of us in Buffels Hook. I'm just going to move around so we can have a look at this lioness who's busy doing a bit of preening. Oh, a little bit too far back. So they are definitely slowing down on the mating. Very, very almost tepid compared to what normal lion mating is. And you can see she's giving herself a nice little groom. I'm sure they're getting quite hungry by now. And, well, we could be wrong. I'm pretty certain this is the last night of mating. But as we say, lions don't read the textbooks, only we do. So they could possibly still be mating tomorrow, but I do think it's going to be quite unlikely. So here you were chatting with James about game counts and asking whether he'd been involved in any. And I've done a few. It's quite difficult work, you wouldn't believe, especially aerial counts. So a lot of game counts are done from the ground and with a lot of maths and mean averages and stuff I have absolutely no understanding about. But I have been involved in aerial censuses, which also have a lot of mean maths and other things I have absolutely zero understanding about. My job was to just count my quadrant, go 1, 2, 3, 4 elephants there, 1, 2, 3, 4 elephants over there. But I've done an elephant count in northern Botswana. I have counted wildebeest in the Sabi Sands, believe it or not, and then given the numbers over to someone who does the maths and then tells me that the population is X. And I'm always amazed by how they come up with these very strange numbers, in my opinion, sometimes. But to give you an idea of how inaccurate sometimes if you try only do a game count on the actual physical numbers of animals you see. Is when I was very young, a friend of my dad's had a helicopter, and we were in Zululand, and we're on a fenced reserve called Pindo, which my dad was one of the founders of, and they knew they had exactly 53 rhino and exactly 32 elephant. And normally on game counts, what you would do is fly sort of quite big blocks, 5 kilometers by 5 kilometers. And fortunately, because it was a friend of my dad's and it was a bit of fun, they flew a game count of 1 kilometer blocks, which is almost unheard of, because it is very expensive to keep a helicopter in the air. And also with 4 incredibly experienced spotters in the chopper, so no inexperienced people who might mistake a termite mound for a rhino and such, and flying the whole day in the very tight little kilometer blocks. They saw absolutely not 1 elephant and 12 rhino. And this is an fenced reserve where they know exactly how many animals there are. Fair enough, there is a heavily thick forest called the sand forest there, but it's not that big, and rhinos generally tend to avoid it. So very interesting. Animals can disappear. It is quite incredible. Oh my goodness, you amorous male lion, you. Oh, she must have thought that was a good one, because she's rolled onto her back to try keep the semen inside, and that's what they do. And how was that for quick? That definitely wasn't 15 minutes between bouts. You go, hairy belly. Just judging from her behavior, she is looking like she is getting a little bit restless and might move. Could be she might be thirsty, might be wanting to head to a water hole. Or it could be the time for the mating to be over and she's hungry and would like to head out hunting. Here we go in sort of classic Sphinx pose. I'm just going to move the vehicle back a little bit so we can have a look at this male's face. And there we go. She was looking a little restless. Is she just changing sleeping positions, or is she going to go out on the move? Nope. So we've been discussing this twitch that this Matimba male has had. I know James discussed it this morning, and I mentioned it a little bit earlier. I'm just going to try and get us into a good spot to see it. How's that, Brian? So we'll have a look now, and there it is. So Gilly in Milwaukee supposes it's not possibly a dental problem that's causing that twitch. Gilly, from what I can see, I don't think so. The right eye seems to be quite closed with quite a bit of swelling around it. So my guess would be it's more than likely he got in South Africa we would term a klap or a snot klap, which is sort of colloquialism for a good slap from the female. And it's a bit difficult to see while he's lying like that, but when he turns to face us, and if any of you got any screenshots of when he was looking at us, you'll notice, well, for me, the left eye seems far more open than the right eye. So have a look at your screenshots, those you take, see if you can pick that up as well. So, I mean, not that it isn't a dental issue. It could possibly. I just think in this circumstance, I think it's more than likely an injury, a mating injury. And if you have ever read Rudyard Kipling, one of my favorite poets and authors, he has a poem. He says, "The female of the species is always more deadly than the male." So once the coupling pair decide to head off their separate ways, Dolph was wondering, would the Styx lioness go to rejoin her pride? I'm most certain she would. She's probably thinking about it right about now. She seems quite alert and listening down towards the southeast, where the rest of the pride is, as far as I know. So guys, we're going to cross back to James, who's still with that wonderful big breeding herd of elephants, and we'll probably hang around here to see if there is any more last of the loving before they decide to separate, and we'll be back with you a little later.
Hello everybody, we're still with this magnificent herd of elephants. They're just about to pop out onto a road, but there's such a beautiful sky behind them that Andrew basically threatened me with my life if I didn't try and silhouette the elephants with that sky. Andrew, watch your head. I'm not concerned about your safety any longer. Nasty way you've spoken to me. Beautiful. Look at that. It was worth it in the end. I take it back, Andrew. So they're all coming out sort of towards quarantine clearings. I think we'll probably get them in the clearings just now. But we've been waiting there for a little while you were watching the lions with Brent. And they're still lurking around here. There we go. Andrew, here we go. Here's a big cow coming forward. I'm going to wait right here. And we'll see her come past with this magnificent sky of ginger, orange, purple, pink, cobalt, and gold. Isn't that lovely? Well done, Andrew. Good call. Beautiful. And I won't shine a light on them, everybody. I'm just going to let the darkness sort of fade quietly around them. They've been so wonderful to us. We've travelled huge distance with them through this thick bush, and they haven't once reacted adversely to us. It's so nice. Right, I'm going to back out onto the road and hope that that cow that we're looking at now does the same. She's going to. Put your head, Andrew. Shall we go up? Are you happy here? Yeah, you love that sky, don't you? Beautiful. Alright, there should be one or two elephants coming out behind, including that big cow. It's a most perfect evening. There are a couple to our left, just feeding quietly, the same cow and her youngster. And these ones are basically heading straight into our dining room. They're about, what, 100 meters? 100 meters from where we live. Right, I will move just a little bit now. Beautiful, eh? Just while we're repositioning here, we've got a question from Gilly in Milwaukee again, and you want to know if I've ever written songs about elephants. Gilly, I haven't. But just about all of the songs I've ever written, for better or for worse, have had some kind of theme from nature in them. Not normally an animal as such, but perhaps the muse will take me one day and I shall write a song about elephants. But no, nothing as yet. We'll just go along here, if that's all right with you, Andrew. I can actually smell the cooking of the magnificent Manuel, who looks after our dinners. So we were just watching quite a few drongos frolicking about after the elephants, trying to pick up the invertebrates that they kick up, and that's not the only bird that does that here, of course. We get starlings that do it, and then of course lovely comment from Jacqueline in Georgia, who makes mention of the cattle egret, which we also get here actually. I wonder if it's the same bird. I think it probably is. The cattle egret, which wanders about behind some of the animals there, cattle specifically, and picks up the dislodged invertebrates from the ground and walks past people mowing apparently as well and tries to pick up what they've kicked up. And we get the same sort of thing here, Jacqueline. We get a cattle egret too. I wonder if it's the same sort of thing. Ours looks like a sort of white heron with a slightly yellow head. Just going to look behind us. There is. I'm not going to move, Andrew. I think she might walk exactly where you want her to walk. There she is. I don't want to move the car. She looks so peaceful at the moment. There we go. Here she comes. Here she comes. Hello. She's been very sweet to us so far. She is huge. She is absolutely massive. Oh, that's just wonderful.
There's babies right behind us.
So special. There's a little one behind us as well. Isn't that spectacular? Hey? Andrew's basically been waiting for that the whole day. Oh wow, that's just great stuff.
Should we watch out for the car down there?
Which car? Which car?
That Bucky's.
Are you worried about it?
Saying, should we?
No, I don't think we need to worry about it. There's a car in front of us. Andrew's worried that the elephants might take exception to it. No, I don't think they will. But that car is where we live, basically. Like I say, the smell of the brilliant Manuel's cooking is wafting up over here. Andrew, if you get onto this car, she's pregnant. She's very pregnant. You can see that swelling there. And the light that we are getting, the light is very dim now. And the camera's boosting it quite nicely for you. So we're not actually seeing Andrew and I quite as much as you are from where you're sitting. Just stunning. So, everybody, we're going to let the elephants just sort of melt off into this wonderful grey vegetation, and we'll listen to them quietly as we have our supper tonight, and possibly hear them drinking. Keep watching the Gowrie Dam cam if you happen to be on the internet later on. I think they'll probably go down there eventually for a drink. It's been a wonderful afternoon spending some time with these elephants. Beautiful fish eagle that we had. It started off very quietly, and Andrew and I thought that we were going to be doomed to an extremely quiet day, but we had a wonderful elephant bull and then this magnificent herd of elephants. A big thank you to Andrew. Thank you, Andrew, for your efforts today. I do give him quite a lot of nonsense and he puts up with it rather nicely. And a big welcome back to Tara Dales. The slightly American twang is back on the airwaves, and it's nice to have her back. Welcome back, Tara. And I'm going to send you across to Brent and Brian. And they're going to just do a quick recap of their lion afternoon, and I will see you, I think, tomorrow afternoon, but maybe tomorrow morning. I'm not sure how it's going to work. See you later, and thank you once again for your questions, your comments, and all of your contributions. They really are appreciated, and you make the afternoon such a pleasure. Thanks a lot. We'll see you later.
Welcome back, guys, but quickly, it looks like they're about to mate again. Oh, you showed a bit of stamina for a male lion there. Normally it's over a lot quicker than that, but what an epic backdrop to be mating with that incredibly beautiful African sunset behind. She seems to be getting a little bit tired of him every time turning her back. So if this mating is a successful one, Jess from New Hampshire is wondering whether the cubs that are born of this, if it is successful, will be known by a different name, or will they keep the pride name Styx and Matimbas? Well, what will happen is that the Matimba part will fall away, and they will probably, if there are female cubs, they will stay with their mothers and aunts and half sisters and whatnot, and they will be known as members of the Styx pride. If they are young males, they're probably like the two Styx males at the moment, depending whether those are still around, probably will be referred to as the Styx males. So the father lineage sort of disappears, and one of the main reasons for this is because you cannot be sure that the Matimbas are the father. In a lot of areas, there's a really interesting study that was in Etosha National Park in Namibia, where 49% of the cubs born in the pride did not belong to the dominant pride males, but to sneaky guys who come in on the sides. And one of the theories behind why lions do this is to try make sure they have the maximum amount of genetics possible. And you must remember, certain animals will have immunities to certain disease, even amongst a population of lions. So for a mother, it would be beneficial to be able to mate with as many males as possible. So it's unlikely, and that's one of the reasons why we don't continue calling them sort of the Matimba cubs or the Matimba boys, and they will sort of, the Matimba name will fall away and they'll be known as the Styx cubs. So we're getting quite close to the end of the sunset safari. And we're going to take one more question. So we've been talking quite a lot about whether he is shooting blanks or not, and Judith is wondering, do lions have a low sperm count, or do they have a low sperm count because of multiple matings? Judith, to be completely honest, I'm going to have to hit the books tonight. You guys are keeping me honest, and I'm not going to busk an answer at you, so I will definitely try find out, and I will let you guys know on the sunrise safari. But as we draw towards the end of the sunset safari, it's been incredible having you with us, and what an epic safari it's been. We were lucky enough to find Shadow and Sindile, and they led us straight back to their duiker kill, which was incredible to spend some time there and watch Sindile using those skills, opening it up, and then ending off with mating lions in the sunset. So we will hopefully see you all for the sunrise safari tomorrow, which will be Jamie and myself. So have a wonderful evening wherever you are in the world, and we'll see you tomorrow bright and early.